We create a little salary cap model.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Right? So, hey, look, here's the max. Here's, and the way we did it was like, hey, here's the max revenue, and here's the expenses, and here's this. And what's left over is salary.
Yeah.
And it's very helpful because I would challenge you not just to do it on the negative side. I have spoken to my CFO about this because we've finally gotten our little teams together and we're figuring out profitability and break evens and stuff. Is go the other way. I say to myself, what would it be like if the minimum salary in my firm was $100,000? What if the file clerk's getting $100,000? Right? Let's blue sky it.
Yeah.
What would we need to generate to get our 20% profitability?
Sure.
And whatever. And the only thing you're doing is you're just forget whether it's realistic or not for the moment. You can look in and say, oh my God, if we weren't going to get rid of anybody and we loved everybody we had, in order for me to get to that point, this is the number we would need.
That is, so that's another thought exercise now I have to go through.
Right? Or think about it as like, well, we'll still reduce people, but let's say we're not going to reduce salary. We're doubling everybody's salary, right? You do certain things. I mean, at some point people will get used to a number. But again, if you have specific expectations, right? Precision, a friend of ours always talks about precision, right? Then you can really get to a point where you can do that. You can say, what does this look like if I'm doing it, this way? Why?
Yeah, what I like about this too is a lot of times I'll hear people, sitting in this chair or maybe like in one of the masterminds where like someone talks about the revenue that they want to bring in, but they've not really thought about, okay, how many cases do they actually have to settle, or how many new estate plans do they have to, packages do they actually have to do to get to that? And I think if they were to do that, they might realize that number's not really reasonable, or my number's way too low, and I need to be thinking about it at a much higher number. One of the
things we try to break down for the team is when we give them a new revenue number, try to break it down and say, compared to what you did, that's only $12,000 more a week.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Right? You say to them, $240,000. Like, oh my God, how am I going to do that? Oh, it's $8,000 a week. It's not a big deal.
Another fun one is just to look at your revenues, and then because I just don't care about revenue. Revenues doesn't matter. Profit matters is really what matters. But like going and looking at the revenues and just playing with, okay, what can you do to increase that profit by a certain amount, and like see where your bloat is, because you got to like think about how many areas of bloat there are, and you start to look at everything, look at all your financial documents, and think, oh, my profit could go up by this many more hundreds of thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars.
One of the things I work with the CFO is they have their formula for basically a third type thing, right?
Yeah.
Maybe 40% in the business we're in, but they break out the profitability side as owner's comp and profit, right? Because we put a lot of things to our business that come out of the business, but are really straight to us.
Right. Yeah.
Right? But you need to account for that to know how well you really are doing. Trust me, you have 3 kids? Yeah.
Three kids.
Yeah. So my 4 kids are still on my cell phone plan. So
there'll be chips in a few years, so I don't have to worry about the phone.
Yeah, I'll be paying for that. So, but it's important. It's a phenomenal exercise because it is about profitability. It's like, do we want to just increase revenue 10%, or what if revenue only goes up 5%, but we increase profit by 20%?
Right.
Do we really need this or that? Or, we're talking, how do we get that $100,000 base salary out there? Well, this is what we would really need. In fact, one of the things that we did with the acquisition was we did a break-even analysis and said, okay, once we reach this number plus 15%, then we were going to do a profit share as kind of part of the plan. But the 15% was I was building in the profit that I want for the firm.
Right.
And I'm more than happy to share the pennies, the dollars after that number. But if we don't reach that number, I don't want to be sharing in, in something. And I've made that mistake in the past. So
I think we've all made that mistake of overpaying or mispaying, where you're paying.
Mispaying.
Yeah, mispaying.
Like
I made that up. I definitely don't think that's a word, but where you are, it's all with good intentions. Where your bonus structure is incorrect, your commissions are incorrect. You're just giving away. You're giving away money is what you end up doing.
Yeah.